Normally every year, I am so sad at the end of summer. I think back to all the things that I did and how fun it was and how I wish it could just go on forever. But as the air gets a little bit more crisp and cool, seems like that's happening a little earlier this year, I'm looking forward to it. Now, that's because we have a few things going on this year. One, I'm due with the baby just about any day now. And also, of course, we are right in the middle of a house build and we're so anxious and excited to move into our home. Not that there's any quick way to get there. There's just so many things to do. Keep thinking of all the things that we need to do. I'm trying to not let them all weigh on me at one time. Instead, just taking each day by day and facing what needs to be done for that day. Sometimes I'm good at that and sometimes I'm not. But with that project, I'm ready to move forward in life, ready to keep kicking this thing along, and we can slow down and settle down and after that, because we're not planning to ever build another house again. So normally I'm lamenting the end of summer. I just love it. It's my favorite season. But this year I'm kind of like, all right, well, bring it on. Let's move on to the next thing. I'm ready to have a baby, ready to get this house done. And I don't want to go back in time. I just want to keep pushing forward, which is a little bit of a different mindset than maybe I normally have. So when I stepped outside today and it felt a bit cool, I was excited about it and ready to put together some fall snacks. I'm ready to make the pumpkin spice lattes, make chili, bake all the bread, add all of the warm spices to everything. I'm definitely feeling it and looking forward to it. So I'm going to share with you some of the snacks that we are loving right now, our family. The first one on the list is sourdough oatmeal cream pies. This came straight from my website, farmhouseonboone.com. In fact, everything in this video did. So I will leave links down below for you to go and check these recipes out. One thing I want to try to remember to start saying on my videos is please, 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 if you make this recipe and you love it in your home, to leave a 5-star review over on the website. Your support means so much to me and my family. Something I like to do with these cookies that I don't always do is when adding sourdough, putting them in the refrigerator, so making them several days in advance, putting them in the fridge and letting them do that long, slow, cold ferment. This helps with digestibility. It helps to develop a flavor. Also, I've been experimenting with the best ratio if you want to convert any cookie recipe to whole grain. And I think I've landed on it, at least on all the cookie recipes I've tried so far, doing 130 grams of soft white wheat. You can even weigh it before putting it through your mill, and then you have it right there in the bowl to add your dry ingredients. Seems to work fabulously. It's handy this time of year to have an arsenal of from scratch snacks for those field trips that we're planning on Fridays, something easy to grab between scheduled things, which we have more of this time of year. As summer is officially fading into fall, we are easing ourselves back into the routine and schedule of our homeschool year. We really like to be involved in our children's education. Whether you homeschool or your kids go to school, there are plenty of opportunities to be involved when your kids are at home, and IXL is the perfect tool to do so. I want to say thank you to IXL for sponsoring today's video. IXL is an online learning program designed to help every child reach their potential, no matter their level or skills. They offer interactive practice for math, science, language arts, and social studies. They offer clear explanations to help students correct mistakes so they can improve their skills and level up. There are lessons for pre-K all the way up to calculus, and everything is organized by grade, subject, and topic, making it super simple to find the support your child needs. One of my favorite features on IXL is recommendations. As your child practices, IXL recommends specific skills that will help your child build missing foundations or take the next step with what they've been learning. It is tailor-made for each student. I also love that IXL offers video tutorials made by educators that break down topics in ways that kids can easily understand. If as a parent you lack the confidence in a certain subject, the video tutorials really help break it down so both you and them understand. I also like that IXL offers interactive games. These are a fun little break when learning new skills, and kids love them. Put math and language art skills to the test with puzzles, quests, and other games. It is important for us to be involved in our children's education, and IXL is a tool that can really help with this goal. IXL is offering Farmhouse on Boone viewers a 25% discount off the first month or first year with my link in the description box below. Family memberships start at only $7.46 a month. Thanks again, IXL, for sponsoring today's video. What can be a more beautiful food for fall than apples? They are in season now, and I love to utilize in-season fruits and vegetables. They just taste so much better. They're less expensive. They're easier to come by. Today I'm going to make hand pies. I do this by basically making a butter pie crust. So I have on my website an all butter pie crust recipe. Of course, I'm going to be using whole grain here. I like to use hard white wheat for this. I know some people like to use soft white wheat. I feel like it rolls out a bit better when I use hard white wheat. I am making the all butter pie crust, but substituting 140 grams of hard white wheat per cup of flour. Why 140 for the pie crust and the breads and 130 for the cookies? Honestly, I don't know. It's just I found that the cookies were ending up a little bit dry when I did 140, so I bumped them down to 130. It's not a huge difference. I know people like really specific stuff, but you're not going to get a huge different result if you do 130 or 140. Just pick your ratio and stick with it, I guess. But I typically do 140 for everything except currently, this is what I'm currently doing. I'm doing 130 when it comes to soft white wheat and when it comes to cookies. That is just currently what I'm doing. I cook and bake so much here that it makes it to where I have a great way of experimenting and testing because I'm always just trying new things, seeing how things turn out, doing it a little bit differently. Ultimately, it all turns out delicious and edible, and so it just makes it a very low stake endeavor to test and try things. And those are the current ratios that I'm using, the current grains I'm using, and how I am substituting in recipes to use whole grains. I do find that this all butter pie crust is a bit easier to roll out if I put it in the fridge for a little bit. So I like to make these ahead of time. I actually made these a day in advance and had them in plastic in the refrigerator. But you can make a bunch ahead, have them in your fridge, pull them out for something quick and easy. If you are using like a pre-made jam, these could be really fast for breakfast. I cooked some apples in cinnamon and sugar, let them simmer on the stove for an entire day, and then I put them in a jar because I wasn't actually making these that day, and then assembled it later. So pulled the pie crust out of the fridge, pulled the apples out of the fridge, rolled the pie crust out, and then cut them into the little hand pies. You can do these with biscuit cutters and make them circle. You can make them square. I think that they're easier to do rectangles because you can roll out a large amount and then cut them, add your filling, crimp the edges, and then if you're feeling fancy, mixing up a little bit of cream and powdered sugar to make a glaze on top is appreciated by all the children. This next one is a great way to preserve peppers if you're still pulling a lot of those in from the garden. I am surprised just how much we love this. Not everybody in our family can tolerate spices, but several of the kids can. And having a little blend of sweet and spicy is perfect for so many applications, whether you're trying to jazz up a sandwich or make it into an appetizer style like I'm going to do here. This is a pepper jelly. It's easy to make. It's sweet, it's spicy. Luke wasn't at all surprised that I like it because he always makes fun of me when we go to a restaurant. If something says on it, bacon jam or some kind of jelly, or what's the other word that I'm always getting sold on? Oh, it's when they call something an aioli, like when it has some kind of jam that sounds a little bit weird to be on the sandwich or the burger or some kind of aioli, I'm always sold on it. So of course, I now love adding this to everything. Plus, you all know how much I love spicy stuff. Jalapenos go on everything for me. So just adding a little kick, a little touch makes everything a little bit better when you have a special condiment or sauce, and this pepper jelly does the trick. I canned one of the jars so that I could save it for later since I didn't want to probably use all of it at once, but we're so far into one of the jars that I think that I really even wouldn't have needed to do that. I cut up bell peppers and jalapenos. If you want it spicier, you can leave in more of the seeds. You could add a bit more jalapenos. I like mine pretty spicy. Of course, it always depends on how spicy the jalapenos are. Jalapenos are a funny thing where you'll bite into one and say, okay, that's basically just a bell pepper. And then you'll bite into another one and you found that you got a habanero. I find it's very inconsistent. I add a bit of sugar, some vinegar, salt, and liquid pectin. I'm going to let that cook a bit. I also forgot to mention that I squeezed out the excess moisture in the peppers. Otherwise, it takes too much to bring it to a jelly consistency. But when you squeeze some moisture out of a flour sack towel, it turns out perfectly. I decided this time to serve this pepper jelly over cream cheese and with my pita chips. I have been making sourdough pitas for such a long time. I love them because they're super easy. You can make pita pockets with them, stuff them with meats and cheeses, and have an easy lunch. Or you can cut them up and turn them into chips, which I'm going to show you here momentarily. I like to mix up the dough in a bowl and then just do a few stretch and folds throughout the afternoon. You can also use a mixer with a dough hook. I find that it's easier just for everything sourdough to just do a few stretch and folds. For me, it's just a fast and easy way to develop the gluten. If you're already hanging around in your kitchen, visiting the dough just a couple times, stretching and folding it develops the gluten just fine. So that is what I typically do. But if you want to just put it into your mixer with the dough hook, walk away for about 10-15 minutes, let the gluten develop that way, that's another option. I allowed that pita dough to rise the rest of the day. And then I didn't deal with it that day. I put it in the refrigerator overnight. And I like to talk about this a ton with sourdough so you don't get overwhelmed with timing. If you make a dough, say at like 5 o'clock, and you feel like it hasn't risen quite enough to divide it, shape it, let it do its second rise, bake it, whatever the next step is on your recipe, by time it's time to go to bed, just throw the whole bowl in the fridge and then the next morning get it back out of the fridge and continue where you left off, which is what I did today. I stashed it in the fridge, and then I got it out in the morning, let it sit for a few more hours, and then went on to make the pitas. So the way that these pitas work, I first divide the dough that has done its first ferment. So it's risen, it's bubbly, it's developed all of that great sourdough flavor into 8 equal parts. Sometimes I let it sit on the counter a bit to relax the gluten. With making something like tortillas or pitas where you have to roll them out, if the gluten is super tight and stretchy, it can be hard. They'll spring right back. So if you give it time for them to relax, it's a bit easier. But if you don't have time, you can't relax, you can just roll them out fast and just get on with it. So that's what I did today. I had every single cast iron skillet in my kitchen working here, because what you want to do is you want to preheat the cast iron skillets super hot so that when that pita dough hits the cast iron skillet, there's some steam action, some heat happening. That's what makes them puff up in the middle. I try to keep them flying in and out of the oven and just make this a really fast process. If you find that there was a skillet that was sitting out too long because you forgot to put another pita in it while you were dealing with another cast iron skillet, you can heat it back up on your stovetop. So I usually have a few burners going, trying to heat the skillets up. I have the oven at 500 degrees. It's not a super long process. You're just trying to get each pita to hit a hot cast iron skillet, then you bake them in the oven for just a few minutes. Now, after the pitas are done, I cut them up, brush them with some oil, some Italian seasoning. You can use a lot of different types of seasoning. Salt, this is just what I had on hand. I'm putting them around some cream cheese and then spreading it with the jalapeno jelly. I have brought this out so many times now. I just keep remaking these pita chips and putting this jalapeno stuff over cream cheese because it's so good. Luke was telling me that this now needs to be my go-to thing that I bring when I go somewhere. If you're invited to a party where you need to bring an appetizer, it would even be good at Christmas time, honestly. Lately, though, we've just been enjoying it around our own home. Now, the next thing I'm going to be making here is my beloved, my current favorite sourdough baguettes. We are just loving these. They do really well with half whole grain and half all-purpose. Any crusty sourdough bread definitely benefits from some all-purpose. So that's the same thing I do when I'm making a boule. Anytime I'm trying to make that crusty bread with that chewy interior, that classic sourdough flavor, I'm doing half the grams that the recipe calls for in hard white wheat, freshly milled, and half of it in all-purpose. Again, I like to just mix it up in a bowl, do stretch and folds throughout an afternoon or an evening, and then let it rise on the countertop. You'll notice that on the first go around with a stretch and fold, the dough is very shaggy, the gluten hasn't developed all that much, but by about the second or third, you are good to go. You can continue stretching and folding it, maybe 6 times, but you can also stop at 3 and it'll do just fine. I have been overusing my baguette pan, so I have to oil it up. Otherwise, I find that my dough sticks, even if I do the fridge ferment, which I always do the fridge ferment because I like the way that it makes the scoring stand out. I think it just makes a better end product altogether. So for baguettes, I let it rise until it's bubbly and fermented, just like the pita dough. I started this yesterday. I think it was around bedtime that I was like, I'm not really ready to deal with this. Plus, I feel like it could ferment a little bit longer. So I stashed it in the fridge, got it back out in the morning, and then by about early afternoon, I felt like it was ready to divide and shape. So the way I do baguettes, I divide them in 3, and then I flatten them out a bit and roll them up and create some tension against the tabletop or the countertop or your work surface. It really helps to give it that oven spring to make them poofy and wonderful when you push them against the countertop. You add that tension that really contributes later to oven spring. I wrapped these up and put them back in the fridge for another 24 hours. And that's something with all sourdough. I just always keep it going so there's always options, but that doesn't mean that I'm always making it the same day. I'm stashing it in the fridge and then I have something later. Since baguettes are an open bake, meaning that it's not baked inside a cast iron Dutch oven, something that would inherently give it a lot of steam, like a preheated cast iron Dutch oven would, I add steam to the oven. The way I do this is by preheating a cast iron skillet in the oven when I am preheating it for the hot temperature I need for baguettes. So I do that 500 degrees. And then I simultaneously boil water and I add boiling water to the hot cast iron skillet. Be careful, this can be a dangerous job. Keep kids away because steam definitely billows back into your face. But this is a good thing because it makes for the crustiest, poofiest baguette. So it's worth it as long as you're careful. It's not worth it if you get burned, obviously. To make these baguettes into a snack that we have been enjoying in our family, I am making an herb dipping oil that you can cut up the baguettes, dip them in. It's full of all of the herbs that are still very readily available in the garden, and garlic and Parmesan and high quality oil. This is definitely a treat. This one you might call a snack. You might just want to call it a treat. It does have some redeeming things about it. These are sourdough monster cookies. And again, I'm using 130 grams of soft white wheat in place of each cup of flour. They also have peanut butter in them. They also have some oats in them. Now, when I made these a few weeks ago, I filmed for this video. I somehow lost all the footage. I went to edit this video, couldn't find the footage anywhere, needed to get it turned around because I am working ahead for maternity leave, or getting a few videos ahead so that way I can just share some simple things like my birth story and then just snuggle a baby. Anyways, I had in stock at that time my favorite dye-free chocolate candies to put in these. and then I was crunch time, so I had to just use what my local store had. Nobody was complaining that I've had to remake these several different times in recent days. Kids only request Monster cookies now. They love them. I hope you enjoy these snack ideas, that you're enjoying the beginning of fall. I will leave links to all these recipes in the description box below.